Today I want to talk about the dreadful 3 months after a hair transplant. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about this enough and how terrible it actually is. And today I wanted to just give some insight about that for anyone who is looking to get a hair transplant or someone who has already gotten one. Now, if you've been following this channel, you know that I have had not one, but 2 hair transplants. I talk about it in every video that I have so that people who are new to my videos know exactly what I've went through. And although it seems like it was a good and happy phase of my life of getting it done, it was not. It was quite scary and it was quite terrifying, but I'm glad I got it done. Don't get me wrong, I love that I got it done, but I did not realize how insane the first 3 months really were. So let's jump right into that. Man, just thinking about talking about it gives me flashback memories of how terrible my hair actually used to look at one point.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
It was just not fun. But I'm glad that I'm actually able to talk about it now, so hopefully it gives somebody out there some motivation or inspiration in understanding what it takes to actually get this done. So the first thing that I want to talk about is getting the hair transplant. Now, when you are actually getting the hair transplant at the clinic that you choose, whether it be in Turkey, in India, in the US, wherever it is, you're still going to most likely have a very similar situation as most people do when they get a hair transplant. You'll have a consultation with the doctor. He'll probably draw the areas on your scalp of where your hair should be implanted. And of course, they'll probably shave your head as well. Once that's done, they'll take you into the operating theater and start the procedure. The first point that you'd start being miserable is when they start injecting your head with that local anesthesia. Definitely hurts quite a bit, but you eventually get over it because it only lasts about 30 seconds. But everyone I've spoken to is, and obviously with my own experience, we've all related in a way that it is the most painful thing in the world. Especially if you're not good with needles, it's gonna sting. So it's definitely something you should know prior to a hair transplant. But again, once you get past that stage and that phase and you're out of the operating theater and you're back at home, just trying to get through the day is not an easy task. For example, the moment you finish your hair transplant and you head back home, you're gonna have to start taking care of your head and your scalp. The first thing you'll do is you'll probably have to wash your head on your own. Washing your head on your own is not an easy feat. I made a whole tutorial video about that, and you can check it out if you haven't already, but it will definitely help you understand how to wash your hair properly after a hair transplant. Another thing to note is the sleeping. Sleeping is not fun at all. I've talked about it in many videos before, but I talk about it more only because I like to reiterate the fact that you have to be prepared to not be able to get some good sleep for the first week and a half at least. Sleeping in an upright position is very tough for most, so I would suggest practice maybe a couple of days before getting your hair transplant just to understand that motion and or how you can actually try to sleep that way. Getting a good travel pillow is really essential in my opinion because it will help you keep your head up as well as not drifting onto the sides of the pillow. I have a very good travel pillow that I recommend. Definitely check that out. It's the Cabeau travel pillow. It helped me so much when I got my hair transplant the first time and the second time, so I would definitely recommend it. It has that extra padding on the back, which I think is a good game changer, and it helps me make sure my head isn't tilting backwards as I sit upright when I try to sleep. Especially if you've done your crown, all those grafts at the back, you don't want it to be touching your headboard and you don't want it to be touching a pillowcase. So having that type of padding on a travel pillow, I think is really important. Now, this is still all within the first 2 weeks of your hair transplant. When you move past that second week, by then your donor area will mostly have been healed, which is when the itching will mostly start. Now, this is mostly up until the second week. You still have to take off your scabs before then as well. The first 2 weeks are really the most that you'll probably have to do during the post-recovery phase. From the second week to the fourth week is basically maintaining exactly what you've been doing for the first 2 weeks, trying to make sure your head is always washed and shampooed and clean by the end of the day, making sure there's not too much of dust onto your scalp or maybe even sweat trickling down. All these are little factors of making sure that your hair transplant is going at a good rate. Now, once you hit that 1 month mark, that's when a lot of things start to change. Up until the 1 month mark, you will still have the illusion of your head looking really nice, looking as if your hair has come in very nicely, but once you hit past that 1 month mark, you will start to see the very dreadful shedding phase. Now, the shedding phase lasts for about a month and a half, I'd say, depending on the severity of how much of grafts you've transplanted onto your scalp. But generally, the more grafts you do, the more shedding you'll have. For my case, for example, my first time around when I went, I had 6,100 grafts on my scalp. So when I slowly got into the shedding phase, my scalp looked completely different from how it looked in the first month. Up until the first month, I thought that my hair transplant was going really well. My hairline looked great. It seemed like I had just shaved my head and it looked pretty good. But the moment 1 month came by and it started rolling into the second month is when the shedding really took into place. From the first to second month, again, you'll start seeing a lot of hairs fall off. You won't really notice it too much. Once you get to the second and third month is when you'll start experiencing the ugly duckling phase. Now, why do we call it the ugly duckling phase? Let's take a step back for a second. Ugly duckling is basically where amongst a group of ducks, there's always one that stands out that's not that pretty. And when that happens, it kind of is singled out and left on its own, which is kind of sometimes how we feel after getting to that phase. But at that 3-month mark, once you get past the ugly duckling phase, but what people fail to remember is that although you are an ugly duckling, you usually end up turning into a beautiful swan. Yes, I am calling you beautiful swan. For those who are worried about that 3rd month, it's something that we all have to go through, but once you do pass that stage, your hair really starts to grow more and more. And a lot of people are always worried like, oh no, this is it. Have I made the wrong decision? My hair is looking terrible. But once you get past the 3rd month, even the 6th month, you'll start seeing a lot more hair grow out. Although, albeit it will be slow, but once it gets to maybe the 8th or 9th month is really when you start seeing a lot of density pop in. And if you can hold out up until the 12th month, that 1 year mark, you'll definitely see a lot of hair grow out on the top of your scalp. In order to get to the level that we desire, we have to climb that ladder up until we get there. And that ladder is basically every month that we have to go through in our hair transplant journey. The first 3 months are definitely the most dreadful, but after that, it's honestly very smooth sailing from there. In order to achieve your result, as I mentioned in all my videos, you have to keep up with your aftercare, which I think is really important. It's not talked about enough, but I have a whole list of things that I use, all in the link in the description below. Definitely check that out if you haven't already. I also have a video talking about exactly what I use for my aftercare. You can also watch that somewhere up here.
So to summarize, the first month, on the first 2 weeks, you have to take care of your head, you have to sleep the right way, and you have to remove your scabs. For the following 2 weeks, all you have to do is maintain what you've done for the first 2 weeks. For month 2 is when the shedding phase will start to arrive and there will be constant itching. Finally, in month 3 is where you're in the full effect of the ugly duckling phase. Shortly after, your hair will start to grow.
I love to hear your stories as well, and the more you share, the more I have to talk to you guys about and give you some good content. If you guys want to have a conversation with me as well, you can book some time with me one-on-one and we can have a conversation about your hair transplants, or if you're going through your first 3-month stage. I'm happy to help you out and give you some tips and some direction in how to maintain it and hopefully help you gain more confidence about that stage of your hair transplant. Okay, I think that's all that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I can't wait for my 1 month mark as well on my second hair transplant. That's coming out very soon, and I have a lot actually to update you guys in that next video. So stick around, subscribe, hit those bell notifications, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.